Welcome to the TheoristCast with Lucid.
And I'm PopBot.
And we're back with another episode of Loki. And, just not really a very eventful episode. Don't really feel like a lot has really happened outside of a few noticeable drops of information, such as the fact that TVA agents are stolen and not made.
So I have to make the point before we get too far into it. I believe that this was one of the busiest episodes so far. Like, there was a ton of action on the screen, which I wasn't crazy about. But as far as moving the story along, almost nothing happened. There were a few tidbits of information that will help us with our theories. But I know we're not here to critique the show. We're supposed to give our theories. But I just had to say that. It's like one of the busiest episodes. It was super busy, between like absolutely scenes where they're doing nothing, literally walking through a desolate land and then fighting to stay alive. Ugh. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare that, the very last series we just had was very action-packed, where you were pretty sure that at least a slow episode was when nobody was punching each other last season. If someone didn't hit somebody, that was a slow episode.
But I think also things were moving the story along during every episode. There were events that occurred that fell in place that moved the story, or the individual stories, which is what I really liked, along a certain line. So that helps you make your theories, right? It helps you see where we're going with this.
Well, I think it's one of the it's not even just theories. It's one of the reasons why Marvel has dominated over DC in this sense, because they've understood that this is what gets us in. These stories is what draws us in. These individual character stories. It's why to this day, people still consider Winter Soldier one of the best, if not the best, Marvel movie. At least until like Infinity War and Endgame came along. But it, not because it had great fight scenes, but a huge amount of character that was behind it.
Told an awesome story. That was always Stan Lee's way. He said, give them an interesting character and story to follow, and then throw superpowers in there. So I understand that. But go ahead. You were saying the tidbit about the TVA agents being stolen from other timelines was important to you.
Yeah, it's it just kind of solidifies my theory on King the Conqueror kind of being in control of things, or at least one of the timekeepers. That what happens is your Owen Wilson probably is from the 90s, and that's why he loves jet skis. Was probably the last thing he remembers was being on a jet ski before doing something, running over a dolphin, and they're like, nope, can't do that. That's not gonna lead to King, our leader King's ultimate conquered future. So they come in, snatch him up, and reset the timeline. So I think a lot of
So is there a story for each individual in there? So that's one thing. Like, if they are quote unquote stolen or somehow violated the timeline and then were turned into agents, that means each of them has a fairly interesting story, because you just don't violate the sacred timeline by, waking up and going to school. So I'd like to see more of their stories. But I agree that Owen Wilson, I agree with you that he's probably from the 90s, probably a guy who was out there on the beach with his jet ski. And that's interesting. Why did he get taken? That's more interesting to me. And he obviously is an intelligent individual, because he's keeping up with Loki, right? The god of mischief. And if all of these things are right, how smart are the Time Lords? Because if you're a Time Lord and you see multiple timelines and you're trying to get to the sacred timeline, you've got to think that there is some individual like Loki, like Lady Loki, what's her name?
Sylvie.
Sybil?
Sylvie,
Like
I think,
Sylvie, that can manipulate memories that would one day get to your TVA agents, right? So wouldn't you take precautions against this? Or do you think you'd get them and reset the timeline and no one would ever know? Maybe they've already encountered that.
I mean, again, it adds to, you know, how interesting they make the big reveal of what is it. Like, are there actual timekeepers? Is it a Wizard of Oz situation? Is it whatever, right? Like, who is behind pulling the strings? And, you know, is the sacred timeline BS, right? Is there really a sacred timeline? Or, for example, my theory is the sacred timeline really what one of the timekeepers, or if not the timekeeper, if it's just like Kang, you know, being like, I am three guys or whatever, but, or whoever he's working with, this is our ideal time where we get everything we want, and we're gonna reset everything because we only see the resets of them resetting Loki and where Lady Loki has been, or Sylvie has been. So why, like, as you said, like, now we just got the word that these people have been taken from the timeline. They're variants, which means when you take a variant out, they have to reset the timeline, right? So that reset can do what was supposed to happen in whatever the sacred timeline is. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen them reset the timeline for any other reason besides chasing Loki, honestly. I think that's the only time we've seen them use those charges.
Yeah. Yes, and you know, I'm just gonna say, what do I know? But I'm just gonna say that that's probably in service of the limited time. They can't go down too many different routes of chasing these TVA, these variants, right? I mean, look at the other variant that came in with Loki that kind of looked like Loki, like a very bad version of him. And I mean, they killed my man immediately. He didn't even make it to getting tried. And he's the only other variant that there was that we've seen so far. We haven't seen another variant outside of Lady Loki, of course. Sylvie, outside of Sylvie. So I think there are sacred time lords.
Technically, we've seen hundreds of variants, because everyone in there is a variant,
TVA
right?
agents.
So if everyone is there is an variant, that might be why we don't see variants. That's why we don't see a giant long line in this depressingly DMV looking place, right?
Yeah,
it's because everyone that comes in there either gets zapped away or put to work and had their mind wiped.
Poor DMV.
And had their mind wiped and put to work. So we have yet to see them use any of their tech in, you know, outside of Loki, and like you said, and vaporizing people they find as unruly.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how that serves the story. I believe there is a sacred timeline. My conflict now that I haven't wrapped my head around is in Endgame, Doctor Strange said he looked at all the timelines, and this was the only one where we won. And how does he have access to them? Are these, if there's all these different timelines, is there a sacred timeline? Or is the timeline he was on that he saw that they won the one that the timekeepers chose?
Well, according to Renslayer with Loki, she's right. When he asks, like, really? He's like, if you want to talk about anyone that goes through times, talk to the Avengers. And like, no, what they did was supposed to happen. And he's like, what? Like, that was his whole conflict when Owen showed him his backstory. Was like, your purpose was here to serve, to make the Avengers amazing, right? That's what your purpose was, to fail so the Avengers can succeed, and that was his conflict. That's at least this Loki's conflict.
Well, he said something that really touched me, like that got to me, that impacted me. This because he was saying Loki's just a force of evil, of chaos. Like he hurts people, and he causes problems, and it seemed like Loki didn't like hearing that about himself. But but again, I don't know if there's a Kang. Maybe there is. I think that there is a sacred timeline. There are timekeepers. I feel at this point that they are just slightly ahead of the game, and they struggle to keep everything working together, to just keep the universe stable. Maybe they're going to reveal someone with nefarious plans, but I also like the thought of there are people that are just neutral. Like Galactus isn't evil, right? He devours planets because that's what he does. He's the devourer. He cleans it up. There can't be too much life in the universe, right? Unfortunately, right? This universe can only sustain so much, and the timekeepers, though you may disagree with their timeline and their ability and their reasoning to just go ahead and delete people from existence, they're neutral. They just are concerned with the big picture, which is keeping this universe, or maybe the multiverse, stable. Why can't there be one sacred timeline for multiple universes?
I mean, I hear you. I mean, the point was apparently there was the whole the multiverses. I mean, according to that lady, like the little cartoon show, there were multiple universes. That's what it used to be. They had the multiversal war, and then so they were in verses, and different universes were just killing each other. So then let's clean it up and just one focused one, so that there wasn't a bunch of other worlds, universes running off. And the thing about Galactus is that, yeah, sure, he was doing that until he got to Earth. And then, Fantastic Four, Avengers,
yeah, everyone
was like, F off, right? And then he was like, whoa. Yeah. And the whole, and they're known, Earth is known among, at least in Marvel Comics, Earth is known among the universe as, and I think it's the same way in DC, is as the place that produces the most superpowered people, or superpowered people of their race, right? While other races do have powers in themselves, only some of them have extra powers. But there is something about the Earth where it is just this hub of extra ability that is added to that just only kind of happens to bring them on par with other alien races. But it's still kind of like, it's like Planet of the Apes. Like, imagine if, like, it's the reason why every time Planet of the Apes comes around is like, apes get smart, we die. Because, in terms of what they physically could do and kind of come up with the minute they get intelligence, it's kind of scary. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the humans. That's humans. They're to at least the alien races that, right? Like I forgot the name of that police force where it's like where it has like Helion, where that guy's part of it. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. The difference.
No,
the different not the Kree, but they're like space raiders. I think there's one that's like police for but basically all the people we're gonna get introduced to with Samuel Jackson being out in space with the other Marvel girls, okay. Right? We're gonna be introduced to all these alien like not just like alien races like Guardians of the Galaxy, but alien societies, like that one society that has the strongest people from each race on each planet, and they kind of go around and protect their part of the galaxy. Or they're I'm blanking on the name. If I do some research, I'll put it up. But yeah, whoever's listening, they might know. But those people, while they're powerful and humans pale in comparison, there is just something, I guess, about the human, at least in Marvel Comics, the human ingenuity and the human spirit, that the minute we get powers that even put us on par with these other alien races, they can't touch us. They can be in a nuisance, but it seems as though we can always fight them back, and then come out getting out stronger and stronger. At least, like I said, in Marvel Comics.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, but of course that would be our mythology, right? No one wants to read a book about humanity where we're the losers, right? Where we're like, we're
the losers.
Yeah, we're the sick kids, on the playground compared to the rest of the universe. No one wants to read that. They want to read a story where, okay, we can't move a building, but all of a sudden something that is unique to us allows us to beat that person who can move a building. So, or we get someone on our side because they love us so much who can also move a building. And, so, I mean, that would be our mythology. So, I got you. I understand that.
It just kind of,
it's our arrogance of humanity. And again, it's the story I want to read. I don't want to read a story where my people are always the losers and we're not doing good things in the universe. I
mean, look at religion itself. God, we were made in God's image. Like, if that's not the most arrogant thing for a guy to have written down in a book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then everyone just be like, "Yep, he's right. We were."
Makes sense to me. I feel like a god every day.
Right? Kanye West, right? My man. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So, but it just kind of that brings out when it comes to Galactus. And yeah, Galactus shows up. He's just this neutral force. He's not good or evil. He's just this neutral force.
He's just hungry,
right? So he comes around and, or depending on your what studio, a cloud. A big old cloud.
So ridiculous.
But
so ridiculous. So weak. Let's just make him a cloud.
Right?
It's like, you want people to buy tickets to this?
They won't.
And then say they enjoyed it.
But a guy a giant man in a purple suit won't. Really.
Like, he's been successful. He's been successful for 40 years. Why would it fail now? It's like, people love Galactus. Like, are you kidding me?
Fox, people won't like this guy in his goofy costume, and then Marvel's like,
exactly.
Here, we're gonna bring out Buff Grimace, and people are going to love him.
Yeah, it's like,
I know, but again, this isn't critique cast, but
I got you. So, but if I spent, go ahead.
Well, I was just to finish off my point about the Galactus. In terms of, I just don't know how if the Timekeepers were really these gods, these time gods. What does that have to do with us? What does that have to do with the overall story, right? If they are like, oh yeah, no, these guys, all powerful dudes, can't do anything about them.
So again, I think,
and then if we do something about them, we fuck everything. I don't know.
So again, I want to believe, my theory is that the Timekeepers don't per se care about us, right? They want to keep the machine running. It's like, we only care about ants to a certain point, right? We understand that they affect the ecosystem, but we're not going to walk around and avoid stepping on every ant that is out there on the sidewalk. But we want to make sure the world keeps moving, and we understand that ants are important to the world moving, right? So I look at us that way. The Timekeepers don't really care about us. They care about the multiverse and the sacred timeline. And their goal is to make sure none of us ants mess it up, right? We don't do something to destroy it. They're not good. They're not bad. It's like, our job is to keep all of this together because we want to stay here. If you guys mess this up, you might endanger us. And maybe it's that point of self-centeredness, or it's just like, these creatures can't comprehend the complexity of this universe and multiverse, and someone needs to manage this machine, right? So that's what they're doing.
The only difference I would say is, though, even with that exact comparison, is the fact is that, imagine if ants get the monocle just a tad bit of world awareness that we have, right? The organization of ants, the amount of ants, the only thing that protects us from just being like, from that really being a legit horror movie where they just can just override and take over, is the fact is their universe is so small. But the difference between them is that we have the ability to see beyond it, the same way that people way back in the day used to think that the Earth was the center of the universe, and some people think the Earth is still flat for some reason. But we have the ability to see beyond that.
This is why we need the timekeepers, because there are some among us that believe the Earth is still flat.
But the problem is that
we're not ready.
But the problem is that those people don't have nearly much effect as those that realize, oh no, the universe is expanding and there's life outside of us. Those people have huge effects, like an Elon Musk, who doesn't believe the Earth is flat and has a lot of self-awareness about what could be out there, and is just just launch rockets. Like imagine if there's an Elon Musk ant that's like, you know what if we built rockets and we just have ant rockets just launching in the air? Because one of them,
I hear what you're saying.
It's like
I hear what you're saying, but I've also been alive on the world for the last 5 years, so those people who have beliefs that are astounding, they can be impactful. To not.
They can be impactful, but I mean, in just like in the grand scheme, when we're long dead, people are going to be talking about the Elon Musk is going to be talked about way more than these, than certain people in the last 4 years. Not to cause issues, right, or whatever they bring to make this a certain debate, but they're going to be a blurb compared to the people that, like how we still talk about Buzz Aldrin, right? First man on the moon, right? The advances we make, right? Those are the people that pushed us forward, and it's only reason that we get pushed forward is because they have the awareness of beyond ourselves, right? They aren't the flat earthers, right? They know that, right? They know that, like, oh, there is more life out there. There might be aliens. I want to go find them. So why we might not have found them now, but it might just be the day waiting that a signal hits, and they're like, we got them. They finally said hello, right?
I got you. I hear what you're saying. So in where the smart ants can impact that entire universe, what is Sylvie trying to do? And why is Kang trying to stop her, based on your view of the story, right? And why are the timekeepers trying to stop her based on my view of the story? What is it that she's doing, that this ant is doing, that can affect the entire multiverse? And why is she doing it? Again, I believe Sylvie is out for vengeance, and I'm not sure why. Of course, because they spent an entire episode not telling us anything about her, which is ridiculous. But maybe, hopefully, it's in the next episode. But why is this? Why are either the Time Lords, all-powerful beings that can snap their fingers and make her disappear, or Kang, an all-powerful being, right? Kang's pretty powerful. Why are they all afraid of her? Why is he afraid of her? Why is my crew afraid of her? And where is she heading? I don't know if they've given us enough yet to put that together.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I just I'm thinking.
No, I agree with you. It's like, depending on where, what really is the truth, it then becomes, well, what is your purpose? What are you trying to do? And I kind of agree. It does sound like, her, instead of Asgard being attacked by, ice giants or whatever, or like whatever got his, Loki, however Loki's mother died later on. In fact, the TVA agents came way sooner when she was a child and killed her mother, and she's just being super vague about it. But she witnessed her parents get killed by them, and is classic. I saw my mother die, and I spent my entire life waiting for this moment.
They can't do that. They just no.
Yeah, it's
that can't be the motivation for all of this chaos. But maybe it will be.
Which like I said, it just isn't like, really. We've done all of this. You guys have pushed the envelope, and this is like
Is it where we end up?
Thor, y'all, apparently no one can handle Thor content outside of Taikiki, right? That's
no one can handle what?
Thor content out of what's his name?
Okay.
Taikiki. I'm sorry, I'm messing with his name. But Ragnarok, the Ragnarok director. Because clearly no one knows what to do with these guys. No one else knows what to do if that's the story we get, or if that's the generic story of, he's just out for revenge because I saw my mother die from a closet. Right? Put her in a closet. Oh my god. I want to think, to me, Kang is more interesting because, again, it also sets up Ant-Man. It sets up later on that if she really is futzing with his plan, he's gonna start getting desperate and start attracting the attention of who? The Avengers. Because a great line that they had in Spider-Man, which again I love, they did really well about trying to really incorporate the fact that while we really are only focused on him, and Iron Man shows up every once in a while, it is part of the greater MCU. Is things like, he yelled at one of his guys because I think they were like shooting off stuff and or trying to sell the weapons, doing something. And he was like, "We're not trying to attract the attention of the Avengers." And I was getting mad, and he was very like, "Keep the fuck down, right? We're not trying to get the big dogs on us because we cause too much noise." Of course, at this point, people know you cause too much noise, they're coming for you. And I think this is going to be the case, is that Sylvie, I want it to be that it's not it might, like, let it be revenge, but also let it be the fact that she realized, like, the timekeepers are BS, and it's and I don't trust this guy's motivation, right? This guy has a bad motivation. Right, let her be. What really we find out is that she was an X variant, or a X TV agent, right? She was a variant that was taken, but was somehow, because of her powers, was able to break out of it, maybe on a mission, and her enchantment abilities allowed her to access her own memories, and went rogue. And they're just being hush because, again, it's like, wait a minute, a TVA agent went rogue. How? Why? How is that possible? Starts asking too many questions. So you have Miss Renslayer, who might have the ability to affect memories. Maybe that's why she's the judge. Is telling people, nope. It's just like clouding up memories and saying, she's bad, she's a variant, we need to catch her. But it turns out, no, actually, no, that's not wrong, because she needed to know. She had to ask the girl how to find the timekeepers. So if she was a TV agent, she would have had that on all. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm thinking of like so many really interesting story drops that could come from like her vagueness, but it seems like what we're getting pointed to was just kind of just a generic story of seeking revenge.
That's what it looks like to me for right now, and maybe let it be as simple as seeking revenge. But what is interesting, if it ends up being anything, is again, using us as an example, if you stepped on an ant pile and Rambo Ant decided he wanted revenge on you, you wouldn't care about that. You would wait for him to come if you even knew about it, and then you would step on him, right? Because he might be Rambo Ant, but he's still an ant. But the timekeepers,
unless Rambo Ant sent out pheromones, was like, and then you had the whole ant pile running up on you, like he's like blowing the horn, and he like his pheromone horn, and like the whole ant pile, so it just rushes for your shoe and crawls up your leg, right? Which I feel like that might be, not to step on your metaphor, like I'll let you know, but that might be like I feel like
that
it will become
why the
like,
TVA is afraid of him.
Or at
That's
least
what I want to know.
Kang.
Why do Kang or the TVA? Why are they afraid of them?
Well,
so,
obviously,
so he thinks that he
him,
could bring down the entire. He thinks that he can bring down that Rambo ant. So Sylvie can bring down the entire TVA or bring down the multiverse. I mean, these are powerful individuals. They're carrying around. They're using Infinity Stones for paperweights. So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
But it, like I said, I think, but with that metaphor, it does make it interesting. Where if that Rambo ant does cause enough of an issue, rallies enough people to cause enough noise, you know, now TVA or God guy or human or really human comes around with ant spray, starts spraying. Whoever doesn't die was like, ooh, now we're real mad. Now, because when you think about the thing that protects us about ants is that they don't have an awareness to realize that if they just banded together, we're done. They can absolutely, it would absolutely be a horror movie apocalypse, right? Of those old times where like insects and giant spiders, where it's like, nope, ants. There are enough ants ants far outnumber humans. There's like 1 million ants for every human. If they knew that, what are we going to do about that? What are you going to do when 1 million ants coming for you? Just no, nothing. Nothing.
Take a shower. Jump in a shower.
No, why? Because they can band because they're smart enough to band together to make a raft. So they'll just raft themselves enough with 1 million of themselves. So the fact is, they're because again, also because of the way their body structure, the water just beads off of them. So
you need to write an ant story.
It's frightening, right? I don't know if you ever seen those floods where like they're just the giant ant piles flooding, going down the river or going down flooded waters because they just band together to protect their queen. But imagine if their goal wasn't to protect their queen, but was to kill you. Now you're gonna start now you're not gonna just spray. Now you're gonna start losing it. You might start getting bombs. You might light the house on fire. You're gonna start doing things that kind of start setting things awry, and I think that's what will be the interesting story is that Sylvie might not be super effective, might not be able to take him down, but she's so effective as causing chaos in Kang's plan that he starts becoming sloppy, right? In the desperation to get things back on order to his sacred timeline where he becomes King the Conqueror, right? So what happens is that he gets sloppy, starts getting more active, attracting the attention of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumverse. And he's the main villain for that. So I think to me that's how they follow through with this being the most impactful of all of them, is that that it turns out these are this is our new enemy. And I can't see almighty timekeepers, right, being the enemy, right? I can see Wizard or Ozzy, super powerful King the Conqueror, who's pretending to like be like a timekeeper and or just more like pretending to be benevolent or amoral, just like we're just trying to keep things straight. I see that can be being a compelling villain, right? Someone who's super powerful, has a big organization behind them, right, that they're in control over, and it's basically in control of time. And now you need people like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Doctor Strange, right? Everyone you know who even can remotely deal with time. Agents Fitz and Simmons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? It seems as though the new enemy is the new big deal is going to be time, right, in the multiverse. And the fact is that, and I think Kang is going to be the one is going to be our Thanos, right? I think he is easier to make an overall villain, like long-term villain, than it being timekeepers. Otherwise, what are we spending all this time on timekeepers and stuff for? Loki's not a hero. And
Loki's so not a hero.
So it's like, he's not going to be in the next Avengers movie as like running with Thor, right? Or at least shouldn't. So it's like, why are we spending so much time on someone who overall shouldn't really be that active later on, like when we go into the movie phases, right? Like we're a week away, or maybe like a little more than a week away from Black Widow, which is this phase is Iron Man. This is going to set up everything, right? This is going to let us know if some of my theories about where we're going. This is gonna be.
I got what you're saying.
About where things are set up. We're getting Shang-Chi, right? I don't know if you've seen the trailers for Shang-Chi.
Yeah, the trailers for Shang-Chi are awesome.
Right? We got Fu Manchu. We're literally having like alien dragons. So like they're not shying away.
You mean Fing Fang Foom?
Fing Fang Foom, right? Fing Fang Foom. Yeah,
you killed me for a second. I was like, what?
Dude, these names. It's like, like, oh yeah, 60s.
Yeah.
Never mind. Whew, 70s or something. Oh my god. Right? Fing Fang Foom. Like, I don't even feel right saying it. I feel like, am I gonna get canceled for saying that? Fing Fang Foom.
No, it's a character's name.
I know, but today that never would fly as a name. I feel like.
Yeah, you would never write into existence a character name.
An Asian character, an Asian based mythological character. It's Fing Fang. No, just couldn't happen.
Some of the changes in the world are definitely for the better.
Right. But
anyhow.
But yeah, so we're gonna.
So yeah, I got what you're saying.
I know. So I'm just wondering, like, how does this if they didn't, and I think my biggest thing is if they didn't posture about how impactful and big of a deal this Loki was gonna be on the MCU, I wouldn't be reading too much into it. I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, cool, interesting series, interesting little thing, cool. Loki's got his little story, but I was told that this is going to change the game. Or this is gonna set up some big shit. So far I have not really seen the multiverse hasn't, like, this whole TVA multiverse hasn't set up anything to me because we've already traveled through time.
Yeah,
especially being Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like we traveled through time so many times. It's like, okay, give us something new.
I just kind of feel that it's exhausting watching it sometimes because I am looking for these Easter eggs, which are clues to where the show is actually going, and I also just want to be entertained. So yeah, I want to see what happens. I'm if I had more time on my hands, I would rewatch all of the episodes right now. I just don't have that time available, because when we talk about it, maybe we're missing things that are not allowing us to see where this is going. So I believe that that the timekeepers exist. I believe that Sylvie is out for revenge, but why is going to be important. I hope that Sylvie ends up being a villain. Loki is a villain. That's what he does. All Lokis are villains. So let them remain villains. And Loki, the villain, ends up stopping Sylvie, Loki, the villain. And the timekeepers go about doing their business. But we'll see. What do you think?
I honestly, I think different. I think Kang is one of the timekeepers. I don't think we're gonna get a full on like, here's Kang, but I think at most we might get one of those well, at the end of Avengers, where it's like, it turns out it's not going to be as easy, whatever the guy says, and he turns around and he smiles, or it's like they court death, and you see Thanos smile. That was our first like, oh my god, oh shit's about to get crazy. I think at most we might get that at the end of this series, is something where it's like a kind of soft reveal that Kang's gonna be a really big villain.
I gotta go and read more about Kang. He just doesn't seem like a Thanos level threat.
I mean, he from what I've heard and read, and just I keep referencing, but a film theory when he was Matt Pat was trying to determine where the series was gonna go. you know, a lot of people are talking about Kang. He brought it up, and it made sense. He's a multiversal time threat. So if we're gonna be dealing a lot with a multiverse in time, this would be the dude, or at least one of them, to at least be a pain in the ass, enough for it to be a villain in the movie. But I think that's what it's gonna be. I think, or at least I hope that Loki is setting up Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumverse the same way that WandaVision was setting up Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Otherwise, I just don't see. I just don't see what they're doing with this, right? Like, I don't feel like we have to be like with a microphone, like with a magnifying glass, stopping every frame just to know where it's going. I think that stuff, and I don't think that's what they, you know, they don't do that. That stuff is meant for the fans. The people are like, ooh, they're not going to talk about this for like 6 years from now, and we're going to look back and say that's interesting. But in terms of stuff where it's like, no, we need you to know where things are going, it should be on the nose, right? Or at least in front of us. I don't feel like we should be grasping at straws to have an idea of, you know, where the next 10 years are gonna go, right? This, you know, if we're keeping on track, there's gonna be another decade of movies, and I hate to say it, some people aren't going to live through that. Like that was like, there were some people who were Marvel.
That got dark real fast,
right?
Jeez.
But the point is though, like the idea is that like we're just gonna be like, I'm worried that studios are getting a little too comfortable in the whole. That's why I got worried about Sweet Tooth, because I don't know if so we can talk about it, but that studios are getting comfortable in the whole. We're going to drag this out as long as possible, right?
Okay,
and to the point where some people don't get to the point where some stories just don't ever end because they're dragging out, and then it doesn't turn out the way they want, so they just end it.
Well, first, this is what we do in the West compared to Europe, right? The West. This is what we do in America, North America, compared to Europe. Like, European series, they go 2, 3, 4 years. You know, most of them don't go 17 years like we try and do. They tell a story, a complete story, and then they're done. Someone else writes a different story. That's one point I want to make. We are very bad at doing that. Our Hollywood has become ATM, where it tries to, you know, get as much money out of a show, and you end up with a character jumping a shark. So that's one thing. The other thing, from the old, you know, words from the old guy, I hope to goodness that no one is living to watch Marvel movies. Like, life is full and rich. There's just so much going on in the world. Like, I want to read Martin's conclusion to Game of Thrones, but, you know, if something happens to me and that doesn't happen, I will still have lived a rich and full life, and, you know, someone else will read the ending of that book. I mean, so I hear what you're saying. These stories are long, but I missed a lot before I was here, and I'm gonna, you know, miss a lot after I'm gone. But, you know,
I mean, I hear you.
We're way off topic, but what's important is like what you do with your time, right?
Yeah. But I mean, some people, there's a lot of people in the world, and you know, I would say for us, you know, we are blessed in many ways, that, you know, Marvel movies aren't the most exciting thing in our life that we're like, I can't wait, because this is, you know, but some people, this is what they live for, you know what I mean? Some people live for many different things.
Oof, scary. But I hear you.
You know, but I mean, when you have 8 billion people in the world, I mean, like I said, there's some people who don't get to live for Marvel movies and other shit, right? They're just like, I'm just alive. I'm happy to be alive, right? So it's just,
I'm trying to eat.
Right? They're living for their next meal. So it's just, you know, I think sometimes we do take for granted like how much abundance we have, and like you said, like Hollywood does that, where they're like, you know, they're stretching out stories. Like, I'm worried I want Sweet Tooth to end. I don't want them to try to stretch it into 3-4 seasons and then be like, when by the time people are dropping off on season 3, to decide, let's just forget about it. So then we get no conclusion, because we see that far too often.
I got you. Yeah. So I got you. We have different theories on where this is going, and
we'll see. We'll see in a couple
yeah,
of days. I hope. I mean, with only 3 episodes
I'm looking
left.
forward. Yeah, exactly. I want to see what's going on with this next episode. Again, this is not TheoristCast, but I wasn't impressed with the last one.
I was Sylvie at the end. Like the minute when that shit blew, I just turned around. And I was like, you know what? I'm hurt. Fuck this. I'm out.
Yeah. So hopefully, the first episode, I saw that. I wasn't crazy about it. The second episode, the reveal of Sylvie and the way they did it, I enjoyed that. And Loki chasing her. Third episode, they kind of lost me again. So let's see what happens in the fourth.
I think it's the lack of Owen Wilson.
So we'll see. I do enjoy the interaction between Loki and Owen Wilson.
Loki and Mobius. Or Tom and Owen.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Loki and Mobius, because Mobius seems to be keeping up with Loki intellectually, where Loki was fooling everyone in the Avengers, in the Marvel Universe. He outsmarted them all, right? They ended up beating him when they banded together and foiling his plans, but he led them all on. And in the end, he, ended up screwing over everybody until he didn't. Anyways,
yeah.
So I enjoyed, but Loki's a bad guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're going. Like, I don't want this series to be the redemption of Loki. I could be the rebirth of super evil Loki, but the redemption of Loki, yawn. If that's the story, then like I said, bring me Kang the Conqueror. Give me something to at least feel like at least we got Kang. Otherwise, it's gonna become Thor: Dark World, where you're gonna want to rewatch these things, but you might not really care to rewatch this. Outside of it was a decently, like I said, some of the episodes are done well, but I would rather go back and rewatch WandaVision and Falcon, right? There were some moments in Falcon where I was like, man, I'm tearing up in certain parts. So like those are series I want to go back to. I don't feel that, so I don't.
I'm not interested in two Lokis making Google eyes at each other.
Yeah, especially if that's what ends up happening, and I'm like, I'm not.
Oh, please no.
I'm not. Look, I'm fine with Loki being bisexual, but why does he gotta then have sex with himself? Like, what are we doing? I thought this was Disney.
I think Marvel's gonna be too smart to go down that route. So we can just, this is not Sony.
He's like, the mouse isn't gonna be happy about that.
Yeah. Exactly.
You heard what happened to Batman, right? Like, he wasn't allowed to go down on Catgirl. Warner Brother was like, nope.
I know nothing about that.
Dude, look it up. But it's insane. Even and it was an adult Batman series. It was the Harley Quinn show. So even they're like, superheroes don't do that. That was literally the words of them, and it became a meme for a while. So look that up. But anyways, yeah, that's it for our episode. Still, got a little talk about, but hopefully it was more of an episode of hopes and wants of where the story's going. But I am that's TheoristCast. I'm Lucid,
and I'm Popbot.
I'm gonna see you guys next time.